And welcome to the Select Board meeting for Tuesday, December 8th, 2020. This evening we have a relatively brief agenda, and it's associated with the continuation of the town's classification hearing. If I could ask somebody to mute their mics right now, getting a fair amount of blowback on our call. There we go. We're good. We appreciate it. We are going to be joined this evening by members of the Board of Assessors. So I see Mr. Barberi, Leslie. Hi, Leslie. How are you? And Kathy Pierce. So what we'll do is we'll turn over the presentation of the classification hearing to the assessors, and then following that, there may be some questions from the Select Board. So at this point, who will be speaking on behalf of the assessors this evening? We got some people that are muted, so I'll have to unmute.
Here we go. Hi, Leslie Canale, Chairman of the Board of Assessors. I will introduce everyone on the board, and then Kathy Pierce is going to take over explanation of the report. So I'm Leslie Canale, Chairman. We also have Peter Barberi on the board and Mary Greendale, Catherine Pierce being our Chief Assessor.
Thank you.
Good evening, all. First of all, I want to thank everyone for their patience in this past week. We released values last week, and I want to own up to a error on the calculation for percent change. I did correct that as soon as I learned about it. So stay in school, kids, because the divisor can really mess you up. So fix that. Keep it in mind. Tonight, we're here to discuss the classification hearing, and you guys do have the classification hearing report in front of you?
We do.
Okay. I don't know if I have the ability to share my screen. I do. So I'm going to do that right now. Oh, technology. And here we
What could
go.
go wrong?
I know. So here we go.
Get your Christmas list or something like that up there.
God forbid.
Okay, go ahead.
So, as you all know, this is supposed to say classification 2021. So there you go, another blip. But it is, we did start this on November 30th, 2020, and here we are December 8th, 20, and we are working on the FY21 classification hearing for the town of Holliston to set a tax rate. Now, I have, there we go. Let's see if I can do this. There we go. That's Lake Winthrop. So basically today we're here to discuss the splitting of value to arrive at a tax rate. And the simplest way to do that is to take the amount of levy, what we call levy, which is the amount of money that needs to be raised by taxation, and divide it into the valuation of the town. So this year for FY21, our current levy is $51,035,396. Total town valuation.
Kathy, let me just hop in. I think that number was the number right before it was balanced at the end there. So the number that you have below the underline.
Yeah, you're right.
51,030,020 is the number.
You know what? Here's the glory of being able to change this as we go.
And so that happened when essentially we balanced it at the very end and hit that, and so it balances through the overlay, and so that change was made at the very end.
So it's $51,063,020. And we divide that by our town value, which for fiscal year 21 is $2,860,673,392. And we end up with a tax rate of $17.85. As Travis had mentioned, up until about probably close to 5 o'clock, we were banking on a tax rate of $17.84, and most of my calculations were done based on that. I was able to go through it at the last minute and try and fix things. Obviously, that kind of messed up, but because it was just a penny, some of these are going to be examples in proportion, but not the exact numbers. So, but these numbers are accurate. The rate is 1785, which is down $1 from last year's tax rate. Now, once you have a single tax rate, you have the decision as to whether or not you want to create an open space discount. Traditionally, in Massachusetts, probably since probably the mid-90s, the Department of Revenue has really recommended that we rely on open space classifications such as Chapter 61A, 61B, which preserve the land in open space for a significant number of times, rather than break out this open space, which just basically splits the residential rate between residents and vacant land. So we don't typically recommend that you do that. Shifting the burden to the CIP classes. CIP stands for commercial, industrial, and personal property. There are limits as to how much you can shift. You can shift no more than 150%. So the ranges range for 1% to 50 to get it up there. It used to be 175, but thank God they're not doing that anymore. So the next spreadsheet, which I did try to correct everything on there, will show you what happens when you do apply a rate. The Board of Assessors does not typically recommend this. What we have found is that the benefit to the residential really is punitive to the commercial. And so in this chart right here, the first column is the base tax rate for a $400,000 property. And you see the taxes are $7,140. If you split it, the residential ends up being $7,032, but the commercial, industrial, personal property ends up being $7,888. So they're getting taxed $748 more than they would at a single rate. And the benefit is only $100, $108 to the residential. The next column is 20%, and the last column is 50%. And you see how the benefit for residential is really off-putting in terms for the commercial industrial. And we don't have a lot of commercial industrial to carry us in towns. This typically occurs in cities. Framingham does split a tax rate. I can attest personally that it has bitten them in the long run. For example, in FY12, when the values for the commercial properties crashed, the burden was shifted over to the residential. The average increase was over $500 per person, and people were wild. So you can, this is not something to toy with. You really have to be very careful about how you apply. And this is another example of the application with the residential and the commercial. Let me just see, I'm trying to get this thing to go down. All right, so the commercial is the dark blue and the residential is the light blue. You see how it's the same, the initial rate. And then as you split, the residential doesn't change much, but the commercial really does take off. Determining the residential exemption, which is a 10% shift discount that goes up to actually 35%. And this is actually a demonstration using just the 10%. So what you end up doing is you have to calculate how many houses or how many residences in your town might qualify for the residential exemption. And those people have to be full-time residents. And basically where this works is in communities where there is a grouping of residences that are not living there full time, like they might be holiday homes or apartment rentals. And so those are the types of property who would not qualify. So they would end up getting the shift put onto them. Holliston is about 93% owner occupied. So this is really not much of a benefit when you end up applying this throughout. Now, right here, you'll note that I am using the 1784 tax rate, but it's close enough to show you proportionately what it would look like. You know, there's not a lot of change for that. If you look at the first three, here we go. The single rate is in number one, 10% shift. Now, these are all qualifying properties. As your value is less, you may receive a better discount, but your value is over the average, you're going to get a shift towards you. When you're not qualifying, you end up paying, you know, a larger shift, which is everything from number 5 through 7. Oops. So we just, this is just going on to go over a lot of what I've just said. Historically, residential exemption has benefited communities where the value and number of owner-occupied residences is less than or equal to the number of non-owner occupied residents, such as Boston, Brookline, Waltham, Somerset, many Cape and Island communities. So that's only 16 of the 361 communities currently evoke the residential exemption. And we don't typically recommend that, as it's not to the community. The small commercial exemption, you know, we've discussed this in the past. What happens is it's for properties that are under $1 million and has less than 10 employees per each business. Each business within a building has to qualify. And it has to be classified as a commercial rate. So the industrial does not benefit from this. Personal property doesn't, and neither does residential. Mixed use does not benefit from. We have problems determining, you know, how many employees actually work in a place, because what we get from the State Department of Employment, which is not public, may say that there are 10, but you might have employees from place to place. That throws them over. The benefit does not trickle down to the businesses. It is only to the owner of the property. So it's really not of benefit. There's 14 communities that have the small commercial exemption, and all of them are 10% discount except for North Attleboro that are at 2. This shift is not a monetary amount. Well, it's always a monetary amount, but it's based on a percentage as opposed to a dollar amount that you're subtracting or adding from your tax rate. So then within the commercial, we have 108 parcels classified as commercial. 76 are non-vacant parcels that would need to be examined for potential qualification. 93 parcels are valued under $1 million. So a good portion of that is vacant land. Of the 76, I guess I'm being a little redundant here, huh? I've got the value of $34,587,500. And then for the total value of the commercial property class is $65,478,600. The remaining 15 parcels, which are over $1 million, are worth $29,156,600. Then I just basically go on and saying that it's really not, it really would not be of benefit, and we don't typically recommend it, or the Board of Assessors do not typically recommend it. Now we get into the fun part, which is this is all the historical stuff. And if you look at this, this is going to tell you the value from 1998. I think I get somebody at my door. It could very well be Amazon. I have values from 98. Everything in green is a recertification year. And we also have the levy. We have the average single family, the single family value change from year to year, the average taxes, and the average percent change from year to year. I'm just going to ask someone to answer the front door, please. Okay. We have the amount to be raised each year and the percent change. We have the amount of growth and the amount of free cash. Oops. fast scrolling. And for fiscal 21, we're showing a 6% increase in the average house. Yep, single family average. And unfortunately, the headings don't stay with me. The average percent change in taxes is 0 this year because the value went up, but the rate dropped. And so the average tax bill shouldn't change. And then we have a 4% change in the amount to be raised. So value, what we needed to spend to run the town did go up a little bit, but it looks like the value increases have covered that, that the average tax bill should not increase. This is the history of the residential versus CIP value rate. And typically our range looks like it's from probably the lowest is 86%, and it goes as high as 90 roughly of residential. So you see we're primarily a residential community. And although our values have grown. This is the profile of single family residences. I've gone back for the last, and then I did 5 years, 15 in 2005. And basically what I did was trying to break it out as to, how many were in each range. So in the 0 to 125 parcels, and that's 125,000 value, there were 2 parcels. With the programming that the town has pursued with the Holliston Housing Trust, we are increasing those numbers under the $200,000 range, which if you look in 2020, 2019, we really had not too many. And in 2015, it really had started to dwindle. We're starting to sort of the numbers in that slightly to give people an opportunity to, have a home in Holliston at a reasonable rate. So we go down to the bottom. We currently have 52 properties over $1 million, which is a lot. Our current parcel count is 4,482. Our average value is $499,556. Our average tax bill is $8,917.07. And then I also have the medians, which really, that's just the middle. So let me shift down here. This is something I've added this year. This is what we call our LA4. We live and die with this document. Department of Revenue asks us to submit and then submit again and then submit again. And we do it. And our numbers have to match each time we do it. We have 6,051 valuable taxable properties in the town of Holliston. 217 of those are personal property. This past year, this was a recertification year, and we contracted to have someone go out and collect our personal property. It's the first time we've done that in a number of years. I think the investment in that was, I think our investment in that was like $10,000, and I believe we received $10 million worth of growth this year. And finally, the market in Holliston. Thank you. Fiscal 2021 assessments were based on the sales from 2019. The board and staff carefully reviewed and took into consideration all factors impacting the economy and the market data that was available. The assessors analyzed 147 valid arm's length sales of single family residences. In addition, we reviewed physical details of sales and collection data and permits. The assessments, I reiterate this, the assessments were adjusted based on an assessment to sales ratio of 0.97. That's to say that our assessments for fiscal 21 are at 97% of market value based on the 2019 market. Each year, our assessments are established for January 1st and determined based on the previous year, calendar year sales. For fiscal 21, the effective date was 1/1/20. For fiscal 22, the effective year is 1/1/21, and we will review the 2020 sales. Lower town increased in value as a result of inspections, changes, growth, and valuation adjustments by 7%. Single-family homes increased an average of 6%. Condominiums increased an average of 7%. The average sale price in 2018, and that would have been for fiscal 20, was $561,000. The average assessment for the same period of time was $470,981. The average family residence bill increased in that year 4%. For fiscal 21, the average sale price in 2019 was $575,807. Not a huge increase in sale prices from year to year. The average assessed value for single family residents is $499,556, which I believe I said was about 4%. Oh no, 6%. The average single family tax bill did not increase. The amount to run the town increased by 5%. I think that was actually 4% if we went back, but the tax rate changed from 1885 to 1785. And I did add one more fact that you don't have, and this is good that we have by class. Single family growth was 12,300,100. Our total growth for the year was 44,444,030, which I gotta get my little calculator out. It was 800 something. Travis, you got that on your top of your mind for that?
Which one were we asking about?
Oh, time 18, 837,769. So that was a big surprise for us. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Kathy. Do any members of your board wish to add anything else before we get into our questions? Leslie, Peter, you good?
Yeah, we're good.
Leslie, you're muted.
Hi. I did just want to add, I want to thank profusely Kathy and her staff for the tireless work that she has performed over the past few months. I mean, we have been working really hard as well. The board has been, but Kathy has been, she has gone over and above the call of duty as far as her commitment and time expenditure in this year. We've had a lot of challenges between COVID and a new system that we're using, and she really just put it all aside and got the work done, and we're all really proud of her. So I do want to say thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Leslie. We'll start with our questions with Ben Sparrow. Ben.
All right. Well, a couple things. So you just mentioned you had a new system that you're using. Just wanted to check in. How's that working for you? And is it something that needs any adjustments or changes, or is it a successful system for you to use?
Well, we've been working. We were a beta community, and we've been working with the transaction. The transition for 3 years, and we have really gone through everything with a fine-tooth comb. I feel very comfortable with the system. It is very powerful, and it can do a lot more than the older system did. And I think that there's going to be good. I mean, there's still a bit of a learning curve in terms of how the tables work and so forth. But I think I have a very good understanding of it. And I think that bringing the staff along in terms of creating their own reports and, doing some of these things that, typically I've been the only one able to do because I'm the only one who had the software loaded on the system. I think it's a good transition.
Okay, good. So I know you had some time, I think it was last week, where you opened things up for residents to reach out to you. Did you get a lot of residents coming forward to speak to you about their assessments?
We had a good number, actually. We had one particular neighborhood that was impacted by our values this year. When we did a closer look on it, we determined part of the problem in doing the assessments is that our sample size of sales is pretty small. And basically what we found was that this in a specific neighborhood, which was number 84, that's the number of the neighborhood. They're all 80,000 square foot lots. There was a particular neighborhood that in 2019 set off a microcosm of its own little market. And unfortunately, that was the only sample we had from that neighborhood. And as a result, their land values went down in 2019 significantly. And as a result, their taxes went down significantly. If we had not changed fiscal 20's land values in that neighborhood from 19 to today for FY21, it would have been about a 6% increase in land. But because there was a significant drop last year, there was a 31% increase in land. What we never remember, people say taxes never go down, but they do. People just don't remember when they go down. They do remember them when they go up. I think that, that the increase, or it's just basically a correction in the market, will be a little softened by the fact that the rate has dropped so much. But it is a correction. And, unfortunately, we could not throw those sales out without, sort of slowing down the tax process for last year. So that's sort of where we ended up with this big change. But other than that, it's been a lot of education. The board has been very active in it. They were scheduling, doing it online was wonderful, I thought. I don't know if everyone thought. I thought that, being able to Zoom and have these appointments was very efficient. So I thought it worked really well. It was intense, but it worked well.
Good. Okay. Oh, that's good. We can use that in the future as well. Have we done any, I know you did a lot of this work because we had a lot of stuff happening all at once at the end of this process. So I understand if the answer is no to this question, but have we looked at sort of what other towns, like where other towns are at, or have we done any comparisons to how they're doing for this next fiscal year, for this next year, in terms of their rates and things like that? Have we done any of those or any comparisons?
I haven't looked. Today I did pull up, who had the growth and so forth, but I really didn't look at it too much. That's something that I could certainly pull together documents that are available on the gateway.
Okay. Sure. And my last question, it's since I'm new to this board, and this is a little new to me, I know my colleagues have done this before. So I have some like more technical questions that I really would like to address at some point, but I don't want to take everyone's time up by going into the weeds on this. So, and I know you guys, you're busy right at this moment, but I would like to be able to have at some point, be able to sort of sit down and be able to really go through some of the nitty gritty of this so I understand it a little bit better. Because this is the first time I've seen it, so it's no fault of anyone's. It's just I'm new. So I'd like to know a little bit more of what I'm looking at. I'm a data guy, so I like looking at numbers and things like that, and I like understanding sort of where this number comes from and why it's different from that number. And there's a reason, I'm sure, but I just want to understand that. So if at some point I would like to be able to sit down with somebody, I'm not sure if it's Kathy or anybody, just to kind of go through some of the details of this, when it's convenient for you.
That's fine, anytime.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. That's all I have. Tina.
Ben, I will tell you that Kathy is great. She will take the time to sit down and talk with you. She's endured many of my questions, and gracefully so. Graciously and gracefully so. I'm sure she'll give you her time.
Thank you.
Kathy, you mentioned that on page 5, when talking about communities that have split tax rates, you mentioned Framingham.
Yes.
Milford's another one.
Mm-hmm.
What other abutting communities or very close nearby communities have a split tax rate? How much does Holliston stand out as the exception or more in line with surrounding communities?
Well, you know, I can tell you that Natick struggles with it every year and they still have a single rate. I think Ashland has a single rate, Sherburne. I'm not sure about Medway. Peter, do you have any feeling for that?
I think the communities that have it are generally the larger communities with a lot of commercial industrial property, where there's not that much of a shift to make it, where there is that much of a difference to make a meaningful shift. In Holliston, where our commercial industrial property is only, what, 13%, you're going to see a large, very large increase on the commercial and very small decrease for every individual resident, simply because of the disparity between the numbers. So towns that typically do it are more closer to, I wouldn't say 50-50, but at least probably 60-40 range, where the switch is not overly burdensome upon the commercial group without great benefit to the residential.
Thank you. And then moving on to page, if I can jump ahead a bit, I think it's page 12, the historical change by fiscal year. I just want to repeat what you said, Kathy, to make sure I'm getting the message right and we're all hearing this message right. So we're in a recertification year. Values have gone up, but we're seeing a decrease in the tax rate. There'll be, in general, and this is in general across thousands of homes, but in general, there'll be no significant change to the tax bill. So your value's gone up, but the tax rate's gone down.
Right, and the tax rate is sort of reciprocal of what spending is, right? If the values go up and the levy stays pretty consistent, which it usually does, then the rate's going to fluctuate to accommodate, because what it costs to run the town does not change that much. And overall, there's a statistical, my understanding is that there's a statistical third. A third will go up, a third will stay the same, and a third, what did I miss? Third goes up, a third goes down, a third stays the same.
Okay. Well, so you bring me to one of my other questions here. The last page here, 16, the last sentence is, or second to last, is the overall amount to run the town increased by 5%. What are you pulling into that statement? What are you looking at when you make that statement?
I think I was just looking at the levy.
Okay. All right. And then I'm going to back it up to page 14. I say that. I'm going to back it up to 13 there. When you've got 20 through 21 here for the percent residential and the percent commercial, industrial, personal.
Yep.
Would you characterize it the same way I'm seeing it, which is a trend over the past 20 years to an increase in the amount of commercial, industrial, and personal?
It fluctuates, it's going to fluctuate because, this year, for example, as I said, we got $20 million worth of growth from personal property. And that's going to have an impact, a little bit of impact. We've had some growth this year, but there's a finite number of buildable parcels, no matter how you look at it, whether they're commercial, residential, or industrial. But there are more residential than there are commercial industrial. So, it depends on what the town does with what they have left.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at 2011, commercial was at 12.45%. Now it's at 13.07. That's 9-10 years. You're only talking less than about a half a point increase. So, the Holliston valuation commercially generally doesn't change unless there's a big project that comes in and increases the growth. Because we don't typically see a lot of sales on commercial properties to reflect changes.
And I think you're going to find that pretty consistently in Massachusetts and probably even further. Commercial properties don't drastically change in value. People get into the commercial industrial properties based on either they have a business they want to run or they're trying to invest in a property. And they have to have so much in order to get their investment to pay off. So they're not going to be huge fluctuations. It's relatively stable.
Okay.
And we don't see really any change in rate of leases, which drives the value.
No.
Okay. Thank you. That's all.
You're good, thanks. So folks, I don't have any questions regarding the proposed shifts. I spent a little bit of time in your board, so I understand the dynamics that really trend for Holliston, in my experience, not even coming close to some of those. So I'm going to move past those and get to just a couple of statistical questions, Kathy. On page 12, the overall single-family residence value change was 6%. On the back end of page 16, the overall amount to run the town increased by 5%. How do those numbers compare to one another? Is the 5% growth increase directly related to our levy and how much we need to raise and appropriate?
I'm not sure exactly. I mean, the average value or the average tax rate? What are we talking here?
Okay, so on page 12, you've got a 6% single-family resident value change, correct?
Right. That's based on the market, right?
Yep. And on the back of page 16, the overall amount to run the town increased by 5%. Those two are not similar numbers, correct?
No.
They're different.
Right.
Please define the 5%. That's what I meant to ask.
So the 5% is what is voted at town meeting and offset by other, what do you call them, estimated receipts. So we get estimated receipts from motor vehicle excise and we get some from the state. And what isn't covered by those things, we have to raise on the levy. And that is what increased by 5%.
Okay, I think the point, the tax levy increase from FY 20 to 21 was 1.77%. When you back out excluded debt, it's under 4%. So I think that's the confusion, Kathy.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's where I was going because this exceeds 2.5%.
Yeah, but new growth, it would be the
Right.
difference. Anytime you 2.5% would be new growth, but I just don't come to 5% either. But I didn't notice that number until Ms. Heim brought it up earlier.
Okay. Kathy, you just to clarify, you also made a remark on the back that the average single-family tax bill did not increase, but on page 14, it increased by about $39.08 a year. Is that correct?
I think that perhaps when you do the percentages, that $30 isn't going to count as a percent.
Okay, that's fine. And hold on, there's one more question. The sales that you guys look at are, in this case, we're just comparing single-family residences. What did the land sales look like in Holliston in FY 20?
We didn't really have any individual land sales that were significant enough to really stand out. Number-wise, we did have some bulk sale, like that we had land that was subdivided. And that, if you're looking for a single family lot, I can't really, you can look at and see that they're advertised for anywhere between 250 and 300, but what they actually sell for, we might not see that number. We rely heavily on what they call the residual value of land, where you take the sales, you deduct the building cost, and you're left with a residual land value. And that's a relatively standard methodology in mass appraisal. And we try to back it up with land sales. We don't always have
and that's, from my experience, that's not atypical. We just don't have a lot of individual land sales. But so my question is, when a taxpayer looks at their value online and they see their building value goes up X% and their land value goes X%, what are you looking at for the land value increases for this cycle overall?
We're looking at residuals. And we usually we stratify by neighborhood. So we're looking at the residual land values within that neighborhood. And then we run statistics based on the residual, and, you know, so we run a ratio on that residual land value and the assessed land value. And if that land value is less than 90% overall, when we do a median, then we have to be within certain parameters that are required by the Department of Revenue, or they won't accept the value. They won't accept the values, so.
My last question, I tipped on this when we spoke last week, and I just, with the benefit of two assessors on the line, I wanted to, this is a peek outside the classification hearing, but for the benefit of people watching and hearing, I just wanted to find out, as you look at 2020, pretty much COVID time period, do you see any changes in the value of homes and what people are buying? In other words, if you look at, if I could, just this is one of the reasons I'm asking the question. On page 12, you can see, it's a great chart, the historical changes by fiscal year. And Holliston's values tend to go in peaks and valleys. I think Peter just said the same thing on the commercial side. We've had strong growth for the last couple of years, but should we be preparing ourselves for a trough of value for next year that might be related to COVID? Do you see anything like that?
So there's two different things you're talking about. You're talking about growth and you're talking about sales.
You're talking about sales. I think you're going to see next year values are going to go up even higher because the market is very strong for sales of houses. People are paying above what people are asking.
The market's
so last year we had 140. Last year I had 147 sales. The number of sales in 2020 are looking at about the same number of sales and around the same values. Is that what you're saying?
I think the value is going to be up. I don't know what the number is. We don't have, we haven't finished getting information on what the numbers are. But the evidence out there in dealing in real estate is that people are paying more now, or even this year with everything that's going on, than what they had in the past. What the total numbers of sales are, I don't have a comment on that.
Yeah, that's fine. But that answers my question, Peter, because I just wanted to make sure as we look into the crystal ball that we're not looking at troubled waters next year with values flattening for any reason related to the pandemic. And it doesn't seem that way.
No, I don't see them dropping, no.
It's interesting.
Kathy, you added last week that we can expect new growth to be strong next year because a lot of people are working on their homes because they have nothing else to do. Yeah, that's natural.
That could be.
Any other?
The other thing, John, you had asked last week about foreclosures. And I did a little bit of research on that. Let me just, I just have to, I got 12 foreclosures in 2019 and, I'm sorry, 2020 and 2019, 4 from 2019 and the balance from 2020.
Could you, if you wouldn't mind, Kathy, just repeat those numbers?
There were 4 from 19.
Yep.
I lost my folder. Hold on. So 12 total, 4 from last year and the balance from this year. So 8 from this year.
8 for 20. Okay.
Yeah.
And those are all private residences, or is that a blend of commercial and personal?
I think I've got like 1 commercial industrial.
All right. Good. Not good, but I hear you. Any other questions, Ben? Oh, Tina, you good?
Okay.
I don't see a lot of people on our Zoom tonight, but I'll ask rhetorically if anybody's got any questions regarding the tax classification hearing as presented by the assessors. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the tax rate of $17.85 per thousand.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We will take a motion to disapprove the open space discount. We're going to do each one individually, so if you wouldn't mind, Ms. Hine, make a motion to that.
I will make a motion to disregard the open space exemption.
I have a motion to second on that, Ben.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that carries. I'll entertain a motion to disapprove the shift of tax burden to commercial.
I will make a motion to disapprove the shifting of the tax rate to commercial.
I have a motion to second, Ben.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that carries. And finally, disapprove the residential exemption.
I'll make a motion to disapprove the residential exemption.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Please, that carries.
Just check on one, Kathy, do you need a vote on the, small commercial exemption as well?
Yes,
No, you would,
yes.
okay.
So I'll entertain a motion to disapprove the small commercial exemption.
I will make that motion.
I will second it.
All those in favor say aye.
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 That carries. Anything else, Mr. Ahern?
The only thing that we do need to mention is the excess levy capacity, and for you to approve that.
Would you like to read that? I have it here on the back of what you'll actually be signing, so, and this was why we wanted to make sure, we did it tonight instead of last night, as this was being finalized. The excess levy capacity, or unused levy capacity is sometimes called, which is under the tax levy set by Prop 2.5, which gives the 2.5% per year plus new growth. With the levy that you've approved here, based on the tax rate, leaves $555,978.95 in excess levy capacity this year.
Do you have that, Pat?
Yes. So what's the motion that we need to make?
Is it strictly to,
Approve that, and when you sign that form, that's the approval that goes into the state.
you'll be signing that form, we'll upload it, and then we'll be sending the tax rate recap to the state for approval of our tax rate.
Okay.
Once we get that, next week, Mary Busquet's office would be sending this in, once the tax rate is set, we'll be sending the bills into our printer, and they'll be going out on time by the end of the year.
You got it?
Yeah, I mean, I have the number. I just want to make sure I understand exactly how to make the motion. Like, so I make the motion to
Approve the excess.
approve the excess. All right, so I'm going to make a motion to approve the excess levy capacity for the current fiscal year to be $555,978.95.
I will second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That carries. Anything else on this agenda, Kathy, that you need our assistance with?
I think we're all set. Just sign the form and we'll get it in.
Well, thank you very much. Leslie, Peter, always good to see you. My best to you both. Have a great holiday season. Stay well. Kathy, thanks again.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
for all your work.
All right, take care now.
Aye.
Bye-bye.
At this point, I'll entertain a motion to close the classification tax hearing for this fiscal year.
I'll make that motion.
I will second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That carries. Our hearing is closed. At this point, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
All those in favor say aye.
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 That carries. Have a great night, folks.